He's looking what?
Look good.
Was it just us? Hey.
I don't know how.
Nobody's here.
It's late.
Jose's not here. Wow. Nikolai was back there, but I'm like, oh, everyone else is like, all those offices are shut. These are really wobbly.
It makes me nervous.
It makes me very nervous. I'm not gonna fall over, am I?
Oh, well, you're on the power strip thing. Smooth it.
Oh, that's why. I was like, why is it so light? Why is it so wobbly?
I still can't.
I like how it took you to be like, Kami, that's because it might fall, actually.
Yeah. You're actually on the power strip.
Oh my gosh, you guys, if there's literally only one person that comes to this.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get that real quick.
Again, we're doing a recruiting appointment. We'll just have to tell her that
We should probably just record the recruitment.
it's not a bait and switch. No one.
Hey, you want to come to this training?
Go through your Instagram.
You what?
Look at your Instagram.
Mine?
Yeah. Oh, it's been kind of fun, you know.
Oh.
She literally said she's running 2 minutes behind. We have one person coming.
Yeah, we have one person. Hello.
One person. Oh. Weird not being in your office. That feel weird to you?
Well, this was my home office. Like, this is where I grew up in real estate.
Yeah.
Forever. So this always feels weird coming back
Like
here.
home.
Like if I went back there and Nikolai turns around and he's like, "Whoa, what are you doing here?" I was like,
to say hi. Walking around the front. Radine was like, "Can I help you find something?" I'm like, "No, I'm just wandering. That's kind of who I am.
I'm just checking it all out.
I'm a wanderer.
Yeah, I mean,
You get used to it.
it's what it is. You're like,
I just have to see like different things.
you saying you having some issues here?
Yeah.
I really feel like you are. I think I broke ours yesterday. Legit.
This is why I don't touch ours, because every time I touch it,
I
I'm pretty sure I do break
I
it.
want to be clear. I'm really good with tech for the most part, and I could.
Not his stuff though. Like when it has multiple things that need to be,
No,
like on my own computer or on my cell phone, I can do things. If it has to go in conjunction with something, that's not my jam.
so I did theater production. Like I
Oh.
should not be a problem for me, but I couldn't figure it out.
So you can, yeah.
I feel like it should not be an issue.
All office combined meeting training. Where? Why?
Get it?
Maybe. I'm just trying to get it so you guys can see the people that are on Zoom. Let's just
The
say.
people that aren't on Zoom.
See that we have an empty room. Can you put some fake people in there? Like
Yeah.
empty people.
Can we do some AI?
log in?
Some AI of abs and cowboy hats on our Zoom call?
Yeah. What the fuck is this?
Oh.
You're not gonna be able to see them, and that's just how it's happening.
That's what mine did. That's exactly what mine did.
All right. Oh, there was one person on.
Ooh.
There's one person on Zoom.
It's probably Lydia.
I didn't hear you.
Teresa, can you hear us? Hello?
They can hear you now.
Oh, they can? All right, we're gonna give it just a little bit more, see if we grab a couple more people come in.
Oh, yeah, and I need to figure out this stupid video.
Oh, don't even start with me, Jason.
It started. All right, now we're good. Let's, take the time to wonder why. Yippee, we're all gonna die.
Here's the deal. Gotta be interactive. Hey, Sharissa and Farhia, can you go ahead and turn on your cameras? This is a super interactive training, and we want to make sure you guys get the most out of it. Is that possible?
Hello.
Hey, FJ.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you? Good to see you.
It's good to see you as well. Make sure it's okay. I think she said something too. I can't see. Oh,
I can.
you can. I can't.
I'm going to be driving shortly.
Okay, well, yeah, you can't turn on your camera then, that's fine. We'll do the best we can, but this class, it's probably gonna be a little short, guys, just because with a couple people, it's hard to kind of do that interactive thing. So we're gonna go ahead, I'm gonna check my phone. Go ahead and get started. We're gonna start with a video first. All right, so I think this is, I mean, we played that because I think it's important. A lot of us
think things aren't working over a certain period of time. So part of this, I guess we should introduce ourselves first.
Yeah.
Maybe do that.
I'm Carmen. I am the TL of Elk River up in Otsego. So it's exciting. I'm excited to be here. This is my first one I've led.
I'm Kami Augustine, and I'm the team leader of Lake Minnetonka. All right. So part of this is it's going to be interactive. So if we don't have interaction, it's going to be us pretty much talking about goals that we necessarily don't have. You what? We can have Jason interact with us. Okay, so what we're going to start with is just a few questions, and we kind of need you guys to participate. So as of right now, where are you guys sitting with your goals for the year?
Can I go?
Yeah.
I am a little bit behind. I'd say at this point of the year, I'd like to be at like 70% of my goals.
Okay.
Without getting into too many specifics, I'd say I'm probably about at 50% right now.
Okay.
So I don't know. Part of me kind of is hoping it's market related and
Yeah.
it'll pick up in the fall. But at the same time, I know that's not a very good excuse.
Yeah,
Okay.
because there's always action that we can take to kind of make impact on that. What about you guys online? Where are you feeling with your goals approximately? You don't have to give us a number, but have a number in your head. FJ, where are you feeling with your business right now?
Hi. I'm feeling I'm so behind.
So behind. You're so behind. So when you say so behind, like if you were going to quantify that, is it something you can make up? Can we make up that gap, or is it something that we need to make an adjustment to?
I already did an adjustment. So yeah.
So to your adjusted goal, where are you at?
I think a little bit ahead.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good. Good to hear that. Anybody else online want to share kind of where they're at in their business right now?
Can I also screen share?
Yep.
Okay, so I can. Okay, so part of this class is to get into the specifics. You might not know the specifics right now, right? So, Jason, I love the fact that you said you'd like to be at 70% of your goal. You think you're at about 50, right? So, you have semi-specifics with that, right? There's a measurement there. And remind you your name, FJ? Okay, you said you think that you're behind. So part of what we're going to teach you right now is to figure out where you actually stand in your goals for the year, kind of what you've closed. Obviously, we'll not be able to tell you what your pipeline is like. That's something that you'll have to kind of figure out as you go, or at least kind of project that. And then if you've been with Keller Williams for a few years, it's something that we can go into that report to see what some of your trends are, so that as we are going to move forward in the rest of the year and kind of, make that gap smaller, we can kind of see what you usually do in the back end of the year. Does that sound good?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, so I am going to try to attempt to share my screen right now. Is there a AirPlay code?
You're good. I think. Did you go to airplane?
I did, and it said, there's an
5729.
Hold on.
Popped up on there. Yep.
All right.
Oh, you're okay.
Okay, so if I go into, you guys can see this?
Yep.
Okay, so everybody this is your KW command. Heather, you can probably help me out on some of this if I start, just totally not doing it exactly right. But you go into this little portion here that says reports. This, it's going to show up a little bit differently, I think, for me than it will for you guys, but I did ask permission of an agent in our office to be able to go through their numbers and how to use each of those numbers. Because the real reason that we're here today is to make sure that you're hitting your goal and you're living the life that you want to live, right? Numbers are scary. And numbers are scary when they're not looking awesome, right? We all want to talk about our numbers when we're doing great and crushing it. That's fantastic. But when you really should be looking at them is when they're not great, because then we can look at them, we can analyze it, and we can figure out what a new strategy is to make those numbers better, right?
To be able to live the life you really want to live, right? Like that's what these goals are about. They're not about us. They're not about a number. And it's not really a reflection of you personally. I think sometimes that's why we beat ourselves up when we're not hitting our goals. We take that as a personal thing that we're not good. It's not about that. It's really about what do we need to tweak to be able to take it to the next level and to really support you in your business. And the only way we know what to tweak is if we know really where we're at.
Yep. Okay, so I'm going to go into, in yours, and correct me if I'm wrong, Heather, they can just look up their production. Here, I'm going to look up the production of another agent. And you can kind of do this either way. Because so as you see in here, you can see your closed transaction list, you can see your income summary, you can show your listing detail, and you can see your multi-year trends. That will be for me personally, if I just went into that. So I'm going to actually go into this agent lookup right now. Okay. Bear with me because it's taking a little longer.
It's really slow in your screen sharing.
I think it takes a while anyways.
It does,
Yeah, it
but then
does.
it
It actually
adds to
does.
it with the.
Quick question. Has anyone ever looked these numbers up for themselves? That's at KW. Jason, you have? Heather, you have?
Nobody else?
Did you guys know that these numbers were available to you? You're like,
Yeah.
I don't know. All right, so let's go into, Heather, is it run through Alex or Ben?
Oh, you're on
You're
mute,
on mute.
Heather.
Like, whose numbers should I look up?
On the sales side, everything goes through Alex. All the PAs run through Alex, all the
So,
DAs.
this is what it looks like when I look up Alex's information. What I want to start with, right? So if we're sitting here and we're like, man, we're about 50% behind our goal. Number one, we needed to have a goal in the first place, right? I know this seems elementary, but it's really, truly not in regards to how people are running their businesses right now in real estate. We both talk to agents on a daily basis, and most of the responses are, I'm doing great.
I'm good.
Things are
Everything's
good. Yeah, I mean, inventory's there, you know, I mean, we're having an issue there, but everything's good. When someone says that to us, we're usually like,
Tell me more about good. What does that mean?
Yeah.
To you? Because
and the other thing is we can look at people's production. And again, there's zero judgment in this, right? We're truly trying to help you reach the goal that you want to achieve, right? So, and we look it up and they'll be down, right? They'll be down by 25%, 40%. You're probably not good if that's happening, right? But there's a piece of it that you need to be vulnerable enough to say, hey, my goal was 10 million and I'm at 2, right? And we are well over halfway through the year. I might need help, right? So this is why we're doing this, because anyone that's on here is not alone in that. And if you're crushing your goals and are on here, let's talk about that too and see kind of where we can go for the rest of the year. So if you're like, I'm not really even sure where I'm at, we've got our goal, okay? That we already know. And then we're gonna go look at your sales transaction or your closed transaction list and summary. This is where I would go first, right? Because your closed is what's gonna actually tell you where your volume is at. And as well, then you can go into your income summary. So right here, what this is saying for the year, there's total units closed is 42.6. Their total volume is 19.6 and their total GCI is 572. Okay, so this is for that team. It also breaks down in there their list side versus their sales side. This is all of the information that we use when we go into business planning mode, right? So the reason we want these numbers right here is now we have our goal. We know what that was monetary volume wise as well as units wise. Now we can look at this and say, where are we tracking? Where are we tracking with this? Are we on pace? Where are we?
we're in the third quarter. And
But I mean, like, so we're what, 70-ish% done with the year, right? So we should be tracking about 70% to what our goal is. if you're online and in front of your computer, log in here, and I would love if one person wants to actually interact with me in regards to where their goals are, because that's going to help us kind of do this business checkup, not in a fake kind of fictitious world, but in a, hey, here's where we're at. This is the gap. This is how we can plan forward for the next, 4 months.
Yeah. Because understanding what your sell side and list side allows us to understand, are we heavy in one side? Do we need to increase our lead gen? What does it look like? What activities do we need to do to close that gap, right? And until we understand what the gap is,
Yep.
we really don't know. Is anyone gonna volunteer online to be able to log in and do that?
Here's the other fantastic part. So if you don't, we'll just use these numbers. Okay, so if we were, do you want to do the calculating?
Sure.
So if we were to say what I'm going to tell, I think I kind of know where they're at in their goal. They're about, I think, 15 to 20% potentially behind their goal right now. Just because I coached with this particular team. But if we were to look at this, right? So take their GCI, which is 572,382, and divide that by 42.6. And this is going to be important because I think a lot of us, when we're sitting here, we're like, oh, conservatively, this is my commission check. What is that? So their average, if we were to take their average commission, is $12,000. Okay. When we actually made their goals this year, their average commission, we used $10,000. So as we were figuring out units versus what actually they were going to make per unit, very different. Part of this is because their average sales price went up. Okay. And the other piece of that is they shifted their business. So when we think of, buy versus list side, right? So they've grown in the last 3 years. They've added a buyer's agent, which means that they have now been able to focus more on their listing side because they were so buyer heavy before that they couldn't actually focus on both of them. Okay. So, and what's the other piece of that? When you're heavier on listings or you're increasing your listings, what happens to your average commission?
It
Goes up,
right?
Goes up, right? Because,
Alone.
yep, because we're charging 3.3 or higher, right, on that side, whereas as a buy side, you're getting 2.7%.
Lower.
Or lower. Okay. So if we're into this portion, who knows what their average sales price is? Again, we really need you guys to be able to communicate. Otherwise, it's fun, but I love interacting with people. Average sales price for someone.
You know what yours is, Abby? Yeah, go.
412.
Okay, so 412 is your average sales price. Okay, are you heavier buyer or heavier seller?
I'm heavier buyer.
Heavier buyer. So we're averaging out probably at like 2.8% for commission, or are you 3%?
Well, actually, now that I think of it, this year I'm usually heavier buyer, so it was like my go-to. But actually, this year I'm about 50-50.
Okay, so you're about 50-50, and you charge the normal commission rate, so you're probably ranging at 3%.
Yeah. That
Okay.
would be fair.
Okay, so let's figure this out. If we multiply that, right? What is his average commission? Does this sound right?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So what's your goal
This year?
this year?
This year my goal is to sell 6 units.
6 units.
Yeah.
Okay. So 6 units times this. Okay, 74, and you said you're at about 50%?
Yep.
Okay, so what's our gap? Okay, so our gap is 37,000 is what our gap is right now, or what we have to actually make out for the end of the year, right? Okay, so if we were to take that, are you capped already?
Not yet. I will be my next closing.
Okay, do you know how much of your cap is left? Okay, so we're really at 39. Let's say your gap is $40,000, right? Okay, so if we were to use this as your average sales price, his gap is 40,000, 12,360 is his average sales price.
3.2. So
Okay.
4 transactions.
Yep.
So essentially you need 4 transactions, right?
Yep.
Okay, so let's go into that. Where's the thingy?
So did everyone follow that though? How we got that math, right? That's really important as you're looking at how do I adjust my goals, right? How do I adjust for my goals? So understanding where am I at? What am I missing? What is my average, right? Some of your averages might be significantly lower than Jason's, depending on what area you're working in. I know Sharissa's in St. Cloud. That's going to be a very different average price point. So it's going to look very different, but it's the math to get there. Okay. So we will send out, we can go back through this again if people are missing that, but we got to 4 units essentially is what he's looking at between now and December 31st.
Okay, so let's be very realistic on that, right? So we've got, I mean, August is essentially done, right? So we have September, October, November, and December. So we have 4 months. In reality, this would be 1 unit a month. However, we know that it's gonna take, I mean, what's your pipeline look like? Do we have anybody in the pipeline?
1 active listing, 1 active buyer.
Okay, and do we believe that that listing is going to sell? Yes, I know that's a weird question, but right now I feel like it's not. Yeah.
It's a condo. It's been listed
Okay.
for 50 days, you know,
Okay.
it is actually work, like, it's like a job or something.
Yeah, you got to do something with it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so this could,
It will sell.
this could be a 50-50 chance. So maybe or maybe not, right? This buyer, are we for sure they want to be in something by the end of the year?
Again, it's not the ideal buyer. They're an investor.
Okay.
So they're looking at about double my average price point, which is great. So if they do close, it's a big win, but
They're only going to
they're
buy
on
the
the
right
verge of
property.
being homeless, right? They're waiting for the right deal. So they want to buy by the end of the year, but they don't have to.
Okay, so in reality, you might have 1 in the pipeline, just to be conservative, right? You're like, oh, maybe I have 1 in the pipeline, so I really need 3, right? Okay, so in regards to those 3, what are you doing right now for lead generation?
So I mean, for context, right?
Yeah.
I don't know who's talking. I am basically a dual career agent, right? My
Yeah.
full-time job is here at the market center, so I can't put a lot of time into prospecting like I used to when I was a full-time agent.
Okay,
I leverage a lot of online marketing.
okay,
I don't have, not social media, but social ads. And then I run them through smart plans. So that's how I'm finding new business, but the majority of my business is coming from past clients, repeat and referral.
Okay.
So in that, I nurture my database, I have them on a 36 touch, and I really hit investors hard. So I haven't done one yet this quarter, but I'm working on booking an investor seminar.
okay,
Which is where I kind of get people's business engaged, and I just do a weekly newsletter of the best deals, which basically through my agent site, I send out all of the multifamily properties that had a price reduction in the past 7 days to all of my investors in my database, and that really piques interest because with investors, they'll buy whenever, they just want a good deal.
okay, so more passively marketing because of the dual career.
Right.
Okay, so if you were actively marketing or actively talking to people, how many people or how many contacts does it take you to get 1 appointment?
So when I was actively prospecting, my big lever was open houses.
Okay.
Put me in the Wayback Machine here, but my old numbers, I needed.
Well, and I'm really just saying, because we can't control this goal when you're passively, we can't control who we're getting in front of, except for the widespread of who may or may not be seeing it. We can't, I mean, we can see the clicks, we can see the interactions, but even from that, if there's, you know, let's just say 20 people that contact you from all of your, like, even use that. It doesn't even have to be open houses.
I have your answer. I was
Okay,
trying to
cool.
remember what it was, but when
Okay.
I was doing open houses consistently, I would do 2 a weekend. I would need to get 5 people's contact information, it's like true blue contact, good conversation, do I have permission to reach out to you? And if I got 5 people's contact information in a weekend, I would set 1 appointment.
You get 1 appointment out of
Yep.
5.
So whoa, that's a really big 5. 5 contacts goes to 1 appointment, right? Okay, so from that appointment, how many of those turn into a buyer or seller for you?
My conversion rate was.
So out of 10, so,
80%
okay.
under contract.
okay. So 8 out of 10 would actually sign with you.
Yep.
Okay, so we're at 80%. Can you do this math? I did it backwards. So I'm trying to get how many appointments we need.
5. We get out of every 5, we get 1. So that's 15 right there.
Yep.
And then we have an 80%. 80% of 3? That's what I need to know first.
While she's doing the math, I'll just sit here and ask if you guys have any questions.
This might be a dumb question. Is a unit a sale or what is?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
that's what I figured, but I just.
Yep, so a unit is anything that buy or sell, right?
Okay.
So in regards to, you know, and if you're from obviously not Keller, we always sit there and focus on the units portion because, right, sales price can go up. So if we're just focusing on the volume, we could have a $3 million volume goal, right? That could be one sale or that could be 15 sales depending on your average sales price. So when with the one thing we can control with lead generation, right, is essentially how we get there, right? So if you're like, hey, my average sales price is 250, this is how many units I need to get to that. Like Jason had said kind of in his example too, is he goes, it'll be really great because that investor is twice my normal sales volume, right? So that's like a bonus in my world when I'm coaching. That's a bonus, right? That's not like, oh, that's 2 units. That just happens to be a really great unit and it'll kind of
Bonus.
Yep, it'll shift it a little bit.
Because then you'll get one that's like a quarter of your
Yeah.
sales volume.
So he needs to get in front of 20 people. Because he really needs to have 4 appointments to get 3 to transact.
Yep.
Okay.
So 20 people, okay, and if you were to think of this and you're, 50% behind your goal, right? How do you believe you can do this in the next 2 months, essentially? Because we all know if this is in December, most of them are not going to close in 30 days.
Yeah,
What's a strategy to get in front of 20 people?
Like now.
I would have to hold 4 open houses. roughly.
Okay, is that something you're willing to do?
Yes.
Okay. It's literally as simple as that.
Yeah.
Like figuring this piece out, right? The actual actions aren't necessarily something that people always want to do, right? And again, he's being very transparent. He's like dual career, right? So here's my goal. This is something I am able to and willing to do. Because I think that the other disconnect that we have is, hey, I know this.
I know how many people I
I
need.
know how many people and it's like, oh, I'm in. I am completely in. But are you willing to put the work in to get to this?
Right?
We have some new people that have joined. Do you guys have any questions, comments? No?
I would like to, I have. a
Yeah.
question. I think it's the most important piece of this puzzle because knowing the numbers, it makes it super easy to say, great, 20 people, that's 4 open houses. This is how many people on average I get through open houses, but you're not going to know those numbers unless you have a system set up for tracking it. I mean,
Yep,
my
correct.
first year was nothing. I didn't know this until 3 years in the industry because I didn't even know I was supposed to be tracking it. So as new agents, if you were, I think that's the best advice you get is to start tracking those numbers right away, because even if it's not now, it will be next year.
And if you don't know those numbers, be as conservative as you can, right? So, I mean, honestly, if you're going to say, how many does it take to get to 1 appointment as a new agent? A lot of times we'll be like, I talked to 100 people and I still didn't set an appointment, or I set 1 appointment. And that's reality, right? Because 1, you're talking to everyone and everyone you can because you're trying to get business. Awesome. Then you put them into your campaign, right? So again, if you're not with our company, your CRM, for us, it's Command, and you can do smart plans to just kind of get the newsletter out to them, do neighborhood nurtures, kind of like what you're doing passively, right? So at some point in time, they're most likely going to turn, but those are not active lead gen at that point in time, right? So be very conservative with this if you don't actually know your numbers, because the moment you say, oh, it's 5 contacts to 1 appointment, you're going to be so frustrated with the results on the other side. For instance, we call agents all the time, right? To try to help them, grow their business.
Recommend their business.
I know that my numbers are different every single day. Yesterday or Tuesday did 81 dials, got 23 contacts and 1 appointment. Different days, I do 50 dials, I can get 35 contacts and set 4 appointments. Okay, so it really depends. However, we can take the average of that. And if every single day I'm counting on 4 appointments from, 25, 30 contacts, I'm unrealistically setting myself up for frustration and failure, essentially. Okay, so be really conservative. Even if you have to use 100 to get to 1 appointment, and a conversion rate of 80% is super high, really, really high. Yep.
Can I comment on that?
Yeah.
I didn't interrupt. That is super high, and that's where I wanted to bring this up too. Like, those are my open house numbers. So I had a face-to-face
Yep.
interaction. We're laughing, we're having fun. My online marketing conversion rate, even when I get someone under contract and their buyer rep, there's a 60% chance they're going to the closing table because a big number of them just totally
Fall
ghost
off.
me and disappear.
Yeah.
So like,
So this is a really great, that's a really great point. So what I have up on here, and I know all of us have seen this, and Derek, I'm going to get to you in just 1 second. So this is the economic model that we actually business plan with. However, this is really, really good to go through mid-year. This is great to go through every single quarter. And the reason why, depending on what company you're at, and if you're at our company, I guess I could point on the little screen. Like net income goal, right? So you could be like right when we saw where Alex is at, it says exactly what their GCI is, their gross commission income, right? So they have a profit and loss, I know that, so that they have a net goal portion. Jason was like, I'm 50%. You can put that in there. Hey, I'm down $40,000 for his actual goal. Cost of sales, you heard me ask him, are you capped? Right? Because if he's capped, we don't need to put that in there
No
at
cost
like
of sale.
mid-year, because there's no cost of sale there unless he's doing a ton of referrals for, with someone. And then his operating expenses, that's something that sometimes people know, sometimes you don't. But if you were to look at your taxes from previous years, you kind of know where your expenses are at, and you can average those out over a 12-month period of time. Okay, then there's your gross commission income. That's where we can separate this. Again, if you're completely heavy on sellers versus buyers, this is where we were talking about conversion rates, right? So when it says percent of GCI from buyers, right? So if he's 50-50, 50% would go there at that point in time. Does that make sense? Do we have questions? Derek.
I was, as you were going through the numbers, I thought of my own and what I've experienced, which was that my conversion is also different based on who I'm calling. So if I'm calling for sale by owners, it might only take me five contacts to get an appointment, versus expireds might be something more like 10 or 15 or maybe 20. But I know if I'm calling cold people, the cold conversion is more like 100 to 1, 100 contacts to 1 appointment. So if I'm needing 5 appointments per week, I know that I need to hit those 100 contacts a day if they're just cold contacts. So that has played into my planning over the years as well. My conversion rate on signed agreements from those appointments is also different, in that if I'm going on Sphere appointments, my conversion rate is probably 80% or more, versus if I'm going on cold appointments or even expired appointments, I know that my conversion rate is lower on those because we just don't have that prior relationship.
I love that call out. And I was gonna, when Jason was talking, I was gonna say, he said he's heavy on investors. If you need to make this up by the end of the year, you may want to switch your strategy. If I was coaching him, I would say, you can't control an investor. They're going to invest when they invest. Let's look at someone who's looking to buy a home because they have a timeline, right?
Or you could think of it the other way. You can control that by saying, hey, these are the opportunities, right? Because now you're cold calling. And I say this because I know, Derek, you do this all the time. You cold call to find the investments, which end up happening, could be a listing, which has nothing to do with your investor, right? So you could almost double tap that where you're working with investors. Hey, let's find them the deal. Meanwhile, that's a huge lead gen source just for listings or new buyers.
Absolutely.
So I'm like, it's truly mindset on how you want to do that.
What you look
Yeah.
at. Love it.
I had one this spring that was like that, where the guy had 2 duplexes to sell, would not list them with me because he really wanted to sell them himself. But I brought a buyer and took a commission, basically like a half commission or a list side commission on both units, and just wrote the contract for them.
Yeah, and Derek, I love that you brought this piece up, because when we think of the end of the year right now, if we all want to be really honest, everyone's like, oh, Thanksgiving's coming around, and then the holidays, and then I'm going to get back at it, and then January comes, we're really excited in October when we make our business plan. January comes and we're like, oh, I'm behind already.
Because we didn't.
I-
meet the
I cannot tell you how many times I will be calling someone and they're like, well, it's just January. Well, who cares if it's just January? Like, you still.
This is the
you
start of your business
still,
year.
You know, everyone else still has a job in November and December, right? This is where I get super passionate because I'm like, everyone else does not take off for 4 months because it's the holidays. And people are like, oh, people don't buy and sell during those time periods. Bull. Like, that's not true, right? Quite honestly, some people are like, I want to get out of Dodge and go down to Arizona. I want to sell my house, right? So the reason for this, I think, is kind of that build up so that we know we're ahead of our goal in January, February, and March. Because if I was to ask anyone that's behind on their goal, what months do you think that they were behind on? Q1, right? Q1, every single year, people are behind on. And part of that, I want to go back to, so now that do we have questions on how to find the gap and how to kind of like figure out how to get to the goal for the end of the year? Because this is the other portion I think is really, really important. I might have to go back this way. Is something called multi-year trends. So if you're an agent with Keller Williams, this is done essentially for you. But it's something so that you can plan out your year and know where those dips are at and figure out, okay, why are there dips or why are there highs? For example, when I was selling and selling only, I had months that I know exactly why they were high. They were always my top months. May was my top month and October was my top month. Anyone want to take a wild guess on why that happened?
You were catching up in May
Yeah.
on lag from first quarter, and then in October, you're trying to put deals together to get them to close before the end of the year.
That's actually a great point. However, I was in new construction. Okay, so when is new construction? We've got the parade of homes in March. So you pick up all of your new clients in March. They're closing on lots in May, or they're closing on new construction in May. What's happening in October? Same exact thing. So those clients I had from the spring, I was prepping and like to actually close out on the new construction in October because that was the time frame. I knew every single year I would cap in 1 month because most of my sales were in May. And if they weren't, they were in June because it was lag time of just when we were closing on the lot purchase.
Sure.
So I knew that those were like positive times in my business. But everybody has their own things, right? So like Derek, as you said, I mean, I know what you know where your lacking is because of the lifestyle that you live, right? And you're like every year, you're like, I know that this is going to happen, and we keep pushing forward to make sure it doesn't, right? Okay, so let's look at the other portion you can find is something called multi-year trends, right? I'm going to click on this. Oops, this is not Alex or Ben. So this is not going to work. Hold on just 1 second.
And remember, Kimi, the listings are under Ben.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So they're multi-year.
Is there a better person to use for this? Because those were the only two that I.
If you wanted to, Kimi, you could go to the team and look at Ben and Desserts as a team, but it's just not other people would find their multi-year trends this way. You could go down to teams and groups.
I'll just do it this way, and we'll kind of roll with it, and we can
Perfect.
analyze the numbers the way that they are.
I have their multi-year trends up for listings if you want the numbers for any other reason.
Sure. And I think, guys, this is really important about how you can find them too. Even just this exercise of where it's at will help you get visibility in your business. It's hard to know what your numbers are when you're out there and I'm just trying to get in front of people. I'm trying to talk to people. I'm just getting started. This gives you a place to go and review. What did I do? Where am I at? How am I tracking?
Well, and here's the other piece to this. Most of us don't look at our numbers on a monthly basis, do we? We definitely probably don't look at them on a weekly basis. And how about quarterly? Who looks at their numbers quarterly? Maybe, maybe. Okay, so most of us don't. What happens? When do we look at our numbers?
Tax season.
Tax season or oh shit, the bank account number is down. Like, to be very, very real and blunt about all of it, that's when we look at the number, right? So this is important to do. And trust me, I didn't want to do this either when I was first running my business. And when you do, you start seeing that you can actually run a business, that you start having less ebb and flow.
And you start to realize you have impact on these numbers. Again, these numbers are not a judgment. They just are what they are. So do not let them make you feel bad if you're down or behind, but understand if you're looking at this and you see that something is sticking out, like, man, I really had a horrible February. What did I do in January? What did I do in December, right? Oh, I didn't do my lead gen. That's why February was so bad. So now I can go back and be intentional as I move forward.
I was like, remember when I said that they were down?
Uh-huh.
And when you add in their listings, I think it is like 18%. I'm like, I was actually on that.
Nailed
point.
it.
Nailed it. Okay, so let's look at this. Here's where we can look at closed units alone. So that's kind of that second portion. What do you guys see as a commonality? And this is, again, let's have some participation with this.
Don't be scared.
I'm totally cool sitting here and waiting till someone talks.
She really is.
I would wait here for the next 18 minutes.
She did so much, but Katie will stand and just wait.
I'll just sit here.
Could you repeat the question?
What do you see in their closed units on some of the commonalities? I mean, I'm gonna say right now, there's only, 2019 was the only year that they had zeros in February and June and November. Otherwise, they've had a closing at least every single month, right? Here's where I would say my biggest aha looking at this is their largest months are April and May. Okay, so a lot of people's are April and May, right? Their November, really their September is probably the lowest year over year over year. What I would say is what's happening 3 months prior to that. That's June. I can tell you what's happening with them. And I think they would be okay with me saying, it's summer, it's boating season. We just got through the spring market. They are actually very much a normal real estate agent, just very large numbers, right? Because it's like, oh, I got through the spring. I'm going to take a little, take a vacation, and not even a vacation, but just kind of like easing off a little bit, right? And then you see that 3 months later. It's like clockwork with anyone, right? It takes some time. There are rarely people that can lead generate, turn that lead in a week or two, and get a transaction in 30 to 45 days.
And if that's happening,
Very few
it's
people.
likely luck.
Very,
It's
correct.
like you got the buyer or the seller right where they needed to make that.
Or you made so many contacts.
Yeah.
That it's like, you talk to, you would have to have a huge amount of contacts at that point. What else do you see from this? Heather, can you, this listings taken portion, because it does pull up their listings, his listings taken. Is there a different listings taken number in here?
Listing units for the year, they are at
23?
For the team, it shows 19, which is interesting for 2023 year to date.
Okay, because they've closed on 23 already. I guess those could have been from December and November, I guess. Okay, so here's the other portion, right? So what you can look at, and this is a little skewed just because it's a team, right? So
Yeah.
buyers go one way, listings go another. But what I would do is I'd look at this number right here, listings taken. When are you taking listings and why, right? Because even if you're not a listing agent, set a goal. Okay, I want to take 3 listings this year. Okay, awesome. What months am I going to do that in? Right? And then you can start tracking that. I'm going to go down. So I mean, these numbers are a little goofy just because of where we're at. But then here's the other thing to look at is contracts written, right? So when you look at this, you can analyze contracts written usually with when the closings are. So if you're just writing contract, and you're having some fall out, which I'm going to tell you, that is happening more and more.
Yeah, with the interest rate.
With the interest rates, with actual inspections, like, I mean, I remember when you'd have 10 transactions and you'd have 1 to 2 that would not close. I mean, when it was foreclosures and short sales, you had like at least half that wouldn't close, right? Because you didn't come to terms. So there are so many things to think about when we're moving forward into a very different market right now to prep us, not just for the end of the year, but also prep us for next year, right? Because some of these conversion rates, like you were talking about, okay, it takes 20 people, but even if we get those appointments, we have those signed buyers, right? How many of them are actually going to close? Listings used to be essentially 100%. I mean, really, truly, you'd be like, I take a listing, I'm closing that, and I'm probably going to close it within 30 days. Huh?
Mhm.
When we get into a more balanced market, that's going to be probably 70%, right? Because then you're going to expire. Some just might not sell. They might change motivation. So we have to be aware of that piece of it. And your conversion rates might change. So as you're moving forward, even if your conversion rate is this, I would still plan conservatively and say, you know what, my conversion rate actually might be 70%. What's the worst that could happen? You have more closings?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, honestly, what's the worst that can happen? Which that means that you're getting in front of more people. All right, we got about 13 minutes. I want to know if anyone has questions right now in regards to that. Comments?
If anyone has any questions or comments on how to obtain any one of these reports and what they all mean, every MCA and all of your market centers would be happy to help you with this.
Love it. Any takeaways that you're like, I'm gonna implement this today? Like, I'm gonna go and take action. Go ahead, Jason.
I don't want to hog all the talking if someone wants to, but I think my biggest takeaway was, it's important, is just not just knowing your numbers, but knowing your numbers per your lead generation source, right?
Yes,
'Cause, like,
huge.
Yeah. If you have a direct referral, if all your business is direct referrals of past clients, you're gonna be almost 100% across the board.
Close.
But if you're using social media or online marketing or a lot of these marketing tactics, gonna be a lot lower.
It's gonna
So
look different.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's also important to know that those sources can change depending on market conditions. Even if it's referral based, that can still change on how many of those are happening, where you may need to add another source to make sure that you're hitting your numbers, right? Because all of those can ebb and flow with market conditions.
And what the media is saying, right? Consumers get a little jumpy.
Mhm.
Any other,
Too, so.
right? Any other ahas?
Takeaways.
Jason has another one. He might be our favorite
He
student.
is our favorite student.
All the best instructors are great students. I really liked what you said, because it's always been sort of, I don't know, the 3-month latency that you talked about. It was really interesting that you put a figure to that, like the results you do, because everyone knows, like, well, if I don't do the work now, I won't get paid later. But you mentioned 3 months, and I started thinking about a personal story where my first really successful year in real estate really burnt out. Took the whole month of December off. My next closing wasn't until April.
Yeah.
And that was horrible.
Nice.
And I cut it out, and I was like, dang it, Kami, if that wasn't 3 months on the nose, it's pretty good. So it's just really interesting hearing you put a number to that, and it just seems like it's not just me.
I don't know, Gary says it all the time. There's models and systems in place because other people have done it before us, right? And I'm like, I always don't want to listen to it. I'm like, oh, I'll catch up. I can do this. Maybe, but also you're going to put yourself under a pressure that isn't normal.
And you
Right?
don't
That's not
need
normal business. That's not normal business pressure. You're going to put yourself where the gas is going down, and it's harder than you've ever done before to try to catch up into that next level.
And then to your point, it ends up burning you out versus if we're following the models and systems, we know where it's coming. We know what we need to do, and we're trusting that process.
Well, and even in a positive light, and not taking it as like, oh man, I'm behind. Like, you get to plan your life this way, right? So if you're gonna take January and February off, plan it, right? And have
Know
your
what's gonna
have your lead gen really, really, really buttoned up by October, November, right? Because coming back, then it's harder. It's harder to do the catch up. You feel more pressured. And quite honestly, when I'm behind on my goals, I feel like my lead gen feels very different when I am in complete, just like, I need an appointment.
You get
And
tight,
I'm like,
right?
Yeah, and I'm like, no, you're gonna buy, you're gonna
You
sell.
are-
I need you. I actually had this conversation with an agent the other day. He's like, I need a deal, so I need to put this together. And I'm thinking, this poor client
Yeah,
that he's
sequence.
working with is like, he's putting the deal together because he needs the deal, and it might not even be the right property, right? And
100%.
zero judgment again. I know people have all been in this situation, or a lot of
We
people
all
have
have
been in
to
that
be honest.
situation.
There's a time where we said, I need this to happen.
Yeah.
I don't want to brush over what you just said, because when the first time I heard that, it like blew my mind. If you're setting your goals, set them on 11 months, not
Yeah.
12, because you're gonna take time off.
Yeah.
Just.
Well, and we know that banks don't work on Thanksgiving. Banks don't work on Christmas. There's a lot of holidays that happen that banks don't don't move things forward, right? Title doesn't either. So we have a deadline. We do lose kind of a month on when you're getting things under contract, truthfully.
So I always think this is funny, and Jake used to always laugh at me because I was like, I'm just gonna go on more vacations, because every time I go on vacation, I get more business. Like, I truly do, right? And it's like, it's actually true. Not because I'm going on vacation. It's because I know I have this amount of time before I go on vacation to do the things, right? And then all of a sudden I'm like excited, I get those done, and then I'm like, bam, weird.
I have
Appointments is back.
business.
Buyers want to do stuff. That's real. That is so real. And it's because your focus is different before you go on vacation, or at least my focus is different before I go on vacation. So I was like, I'm just gonna go on vacation at least once a month. I mean, sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't, but
Share a story from this year. I had a listing it was another condo, so it was a little longer. They're getting kind of nervous. I just said, don't worry about it. I'm going to Hawaii in a week. We're gonna get like 2 offers, I promise.
yeah,
Kind of joking,
But
it
kind of
did.
not.
Like, it is so uncanny. It's so true.
it happens. I feel like every time I go somewhere, it happens.
Because you're really focused on what you need to do before
Yeah.
you go to line everything
Or
up.
I'm really focused on vacation, and it's like, oh, guess what? You're gonna work.
Guess what? I paid
Like,
attention.
So many offers in airports. It's crazy.
right? All right, anything else that you guys are took away from this or gonna implement? Is anyone that came to this class, because there was a reason that you came to this class, going to go check on their numbers, like actually analyze them in the next week or 2? Okay, 2 people. Awesome.
I'll take
That
it.
is a win. That is a win. And I hope that if you ever have questions, go to your team leader, right? And I'm always happy. I know Carmen is. I know all of the rest of the TLs are happy to just kind of have an outside look at your numbers too, because just like when I asked you guys to look at their multi-year trends, sometimes they don't think about it. And then me asking them questions like, what are you doing in June? And they're like, putting the boat in, right? Like, I mean, that's like, that those are real. You don't think about that because you're thinking of it as like, this is just my life. This is just what happens. But if you dive into why those reasons are, you're going to figure out your own trends, and you're going to figure out there's months that you're like, man, this is a killer month because that's my month.
Yeah.
Or like, I love spring, and you know what? April is the time when I can start smelling the spring, and I'm like, I'm ready to sell real estate. For me, I love fall. What do I get excited about? Like usually October time, I'm like ready to just go, right? I'm like, I can do anything in October, right? So I mean, find your patterns. We all have them.
And it'll help you be more strategic with when you're leaving and what it looks like when you know where that lag is, right? I think a lot of times we can get what I call stuck in the sucks when things aren't going our way. And then we look back at our behaviors in that 90-day lag, and you're like, oh, this is why I'm stuck here. This is why I'm tight. This is why I have commission breath. Now we know it's going to happen, so let's plan for it, right? We know what this is gonna look like, so what are you doing proactively to protect so we don't get there?
Absolutely. Last thing to kind of close out, I would say, find your weakness. Find that month that is your weak month, right? And the month that you don't close as much. And then we figure out the months that you would need to lead generate, and find someone to hold you accountable that month, right? If it's June, like theirs, be like, hold me accountable in June to setting this many appointments, right? And I can promise you, your next year will look very different if you find those weak spots and you find a partner, whether or not it's a colleague, a spouse, whoever it is, but they have to actually hold you accountable to those numbers, because if they let you slide and don't ask the right questions, you're going to be in the same spot. All right,
Guys,
go have a great day. Thanks for coming.
great class, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye guys on Zoom.